Hello everybody, this is Mr. Young here, Webster Groves High School, Computer Science and IT. This video is one of many of a multi-part series discovering how to set up GitHub for web developers. Now there will be another set of videos set up for how to set up GitHub for game developers, but this video series is specifically for those that are taking web design or advanced web design. How do you set up GitHub? Well, first off, GitHub is a really large website designed for programmers in general to be able to save their code online in something known as repositories. For the purposes of our course, it's primarily going to be used to back up our websites so that they can never be lost locally on a computer, which happens. And it's also going to give us the opportunity down the road to work in teams and to learn what Git branches are and to be able to actually work together in a team, making additions and subtractions without the fear of damaging a group project. So it gives you the ability to experiment without making permanent changes to a group project. So the first thing you really need to do on your computer, whether this is at home or a personal laptop, is to install Git. Git is completely free. It is available on Mac, Windows, and Linux. Just go ahead and download the file that's appropriate for your operating system and install it. It's a pretty simple install. It's essentially just pressing next a few times and then the install is complete. The second thing you're going to want to do is to go to github.com right here, github.com, and create a new account. Once you have the new account and Git installed, then you are ready to begin this tutorial. So pause here now if you need to do those two installations and setups. Okay, so step 2 here in our first video is creating a repository. And you can see I've got a few repositories here just to kind of demo what they look like once you're inside GitHub's website. So I have one here referred to as website test that I've already done this to check it out to make sure it's all going to work for you guys. I'm going to make another one here from scratch so that you can follow along step by step. So I'm going to click on repositories and I'm going to say that I want to create a brand new repository. Again, repository is a term used to define storage space on GitHub servers where your project files will be backed up. So we're going to press new. And I'm just going to call mine website test 2. Again, repository is going to be the name of the storage space. I would highly encourage you to choose a repository name that is reflective of the topic of your project. I would also encourage you to use a noun. Maybe it's going to be personal web page project. Maybe it's going to be a website using CSS. Whatever. Just make sure that you use it. Come up with a name that makes sense for your project, and then there's just an optional description section where you can give it a detailed description of what the purpose of the project is. This is more important maybe long term if you kind of forget what the heck this project was all about. So I'm just going to say a demo website project learning how to set up GitHub with a website project. There we go. Okay, then you have the option of public or private. You're only going to be able to choose public for right now because, well, you'll notice if you click on private, it's going to say that it does cost. I have not run into any issues with the website being public. I haven't worried about anybody stealing any code. A lot of programmers have told me they've never run into it. But what I would say as a student, because it is public, you're going to want to make sure that you do not put any personally identifying information in your projects. So no first and last names, no addresses, maybe no names of schools, anything that would help somebody potentially online find you, track you, do harm. So you're going to want to make sure that you stay anonymous in these projects and not use anything personally identifiable. Next, you're going to check initialize this repository with a README. We'll talk more about it later, but a README is a document that will kind of talk about what you're doing in your project, what the purpose of it is, where the project is currently right now in development. After that, we'll choose create repository. I won't choose any of these other documents here for git ignore or a license. We won't use these in web design, but some of my other programming classes may choose a specific git ignore document down here. So choose create repository. After you choose to create repository, this is going to be the web interface that shows all of the files that you currently have in your project online. Now, it's really important to note you are still going to be working on your project locally on your computer. That GitHub is the space that we just dump our files when we're finished with them and we want to make a permanent change to the record. So I'll repeat that again. On your computer, that's where you're doing all the working and the coding and the processing. GitHub's website is only to be used to dump your files when you've made a major update you're satisfied with, or maybe it's nearing the end of the class period and you need to make a save, but you will not be working from a GitHub server like typical cloud storage space like a Google Drive or Dropbox. It doesn't work quite the same. This is just where you put files and you leave them. And you can download them from home if you want to make a copy there and work in the case of homework. Okay, so we have this part all set up. We'll get into what are branches later. That's going to be important when it comes to talking about the collaborative piece and how to experiment with the code in your project without potentially damaging something that someone else is working on, and so on. Over here under contributor, when you do get into the collaboration piece, this is where you can go in and add who is going to be able to work with your project, such as your team members, set up things called forks and look at your commit history. All of that is going to come up in future videos here, but we're just learning how to set up the project. So again, under code, you will see we only have a README file. Okay? Our next step is going to require us to create a local folder on our computer where the initial work will begin. Don't worry, the whole point of GitHub is to take that local work and back it up on their servers. So we're just going to make a new folder. On Windows and Mac, it's just right click and choose new folder. And I will call this folder website test 2. Guess it didn't do it like I thought it was doing it there. So website 2, you can call it whatever you're working on. If you're watching this right before doing a project, give the name of your project by topic. So there it is, website test 2. And my next step then is to open up Brackets. So the program that we're going to be using in our class is called Brackets. Brackets is also another free application. You just go to brackets.io. You will see it. Brackets used to be an open source, independently operated company producing this application, and then it was kind of consumed by the company Adobe. So now they are directly affiliated with Adobe, which you may be familiar with Photoshop and Illustrator and so on. So if you need to install it, again, it works on many operating systems. This is the source for downloading. Get that set up here in the next step. Pause if you need to right here. So once we have Brackets installed, what we need to do is say that we want to create a new file and then immediately save it. Files, save as, and I'm going to save my first file as index.html, which we know is the root file of a website, the main one that loads first. Save that into your new folder that you made on your desktop just a few minutes ago and press save. Okay, so that is going to be the first major step. Is in Brackets is just going up to File and Save As. Now once you've saved the first file, which is completely blank, we haven't done any HTML or CSS or any coding here, we're going to make sure Brackets is now pointing to our local folder on the desktop or wherever you saved it. So mine is on the desktop. I'm going to say File Open, go to Website 2 and choose Open, and now Brackets is pointing to the only file that is in that folder. In the next video, we're going to walk through how do you set up GitHub with this and Git commands so that we can push our changes from our desktop and put them over onto GitHub servers. Okay, so that is where this video is going to conclude, and we'll come back in just a second on how to set up GitHub.